Hello everyone, welcome. My name is Borbála Körmendy, and the topic of my PhD is uniform reporting in middle ear surgery. I'm a first-year ENT resident at Bajcsy-Zsilinszky Hospital. My vision is an evidence-based staging system for cholesteatomas, and my mission within that is investigating the currently used staging systems for cholesteatomas. So, these are my current projects. Both of them entail staging systems for cholesteatomas. My first project is investigating the rate of recidivism in the European Japanese cholesteatoma staging system. So what is a cholesteatoma? Cholesteatoma is a destructive disease in the middle ear in which a keratinous pearl forms and grows, destructing the structures within the middle ear in its way. The only definitive therapy is surgery. According to the science that is available to us now, the incidence is quite low, but once a patient has it, unfortunately, the recurrence rate is really high. There are various staging systems that are used for staging cholesteatomas. One of the most recently published ones is the European Japanese Consensus Staging System, which was published in 2017, but unfortunately, no studies that were published ever since indicate that this staging system can actually be used to estimate disease severity. We feel that uniform definitions for staging are extremely important to be able to correctly gauge prognosis, plan surgeries, and to be able to compare the results on a multi-institutional and international level. Our aim is assessing the usefulness of this European Japanese cholesteatoma staging system. Our research question is, does the European Japanese staging system correctly predict the likelihood of recidivism? For this, our population is all patients with cholesteatoma. The comparators are the stages of the staging system against each other. And our primary outcome, it has been predefined in the article that contains the staging system. The primary outcome is recidivism, which is a summarization of recurrent and residual disease. And our secondary outcome is hearing improvement, although this is not that important because the main goal of cholesteatoma surgery is not to improve patients' hearing, but to completely eradicate the cholesteatoma from patients' ears. Our null hypothesis is that the staging system's stage predicts outcome correctly. And our clinical implication is to be able to select the adequate surgical therapy based on the stage, and also to be able to educate patients concerning what to expect from this disease in their case. Our systematic search was conducted in 4 databases on October the 30th with the following search key. We have already completed our text selection. Here I would like to thank my selection partner, Kinga Schenker-Horváth, who provided me with help. We have narrowed down our more than 5,000 articles to 8 eligible full texts. We have already been through many steps in our research. We have reached a little bit of a wall with data extraction because we actually realized that with the data provided within the articles, we are not going to be able to make the statistical analysis that we so hoped to make. So we decided to contact the authors of our selected articles, and thankfully 4 of them responded, and we are currently waiting for them to send us the databases that they have created of these patients. So unfortunately, until we have these databases, we are not going to be able to progress, but hopefully they will arrive soon. My second project is very similar to the first one. It is investigating the validity of the POT6 staging system, which is used for congenital cholesteatomas. Congenital cholesteatoma is about 1 to 5% of all cholesteatomas, so it's a very rare disease. Usually, since it has very mild symptoms or even no symptoms, patients get diagnosed as late as 5 years. And even though it has no symptoms, in some cases no symptoms, it can lead to severe complications such as cranial nerve palsies, vertigo, and infections, for example, meningitis. The POSIX staging system is currently the most widely used staging system for congenital cholesteatoma staging. It has been published in 2002, but there isn't really a clear consensus in middle ear surgery about whether it's actually a good staging system. Since it is a very rare congenital cholesteatoma is a very rare disease, we feel that a reliable staging system would help maximize favorable outcomes of these surgeries, and our aim is to assess the usefulness of the POSIX staging system. Our clinical question is, does POSIX stage correctly predict the likelihood of residual disease? Our population in this case is patients with only congenital cholesteatomas. Our comparators are the stages to each other, and our only outcome in this case is residual disease. And our null hypothesis is that POSIX stage predicts outcome correctly. Just like with the other project, our clinical implication is to be able to select adequate surgical therapy and to be able to educate patients. Our preliminary research case was the following. We have conducted our preliminary research in the same 4 databases, and we have come up, thank God, with quite a few articles, and we have not found a previous meta-analysis or a prospect registration. We have found our topic feasible during our consultations with our institution statisticians, and we have just published our prospero, so hopefully we are going to be able to progress with duplicate removal and the text selection. As an overview, these were my project. Thank you so much for your attention, and I am waiting for your questions.
Thank you for your presentation. My question would be, what is the basis for this staging system?
The European-Japanese staging system is controversial exactly because of how the stages are defined. In the first 2 stages, the first stage is a very small cholesteatoma that is only present in 1 quadrant in the tympanic cavity. The second stage is a cholesteatoma that is bigger and progressed to more than 1 quadrant. The third stage is extracranial complications such as a neck abscess, and the fourth stage is intracranial complications such as meningitis. As for the POSIX stage, the first 2 stages are basically the same. The first stage is cholesteatoma in 1 quadrant. The second is cholesteatoma in 2 quadrants. The third stage is ossicular involvement, which means that the cholesteatoma has climbed onto the hearing ossicles. And the fourth stage is mastoid involvement. The mastoid process is right behind your ear, and it's actually, from the inside, it has a spongy texture. It's basically a labyrinth for the cholesteatoma to discover. Thank you so much.
So thank you so much for the presentation. Just something that's not very clear for me is about the second project. The mean age at diagnosis, you said it's 5 years. So these are 5-year-old children who are being diagnosed. So what is not very clear to me is you're giving a mean age, but I'm also curious about how early can we actually diagnose this disease? And the follow-up question is, if we are talking about something like it might actually be possible to diagnose these people when they're 1-year-old, the follow-up question would be, really how much clinical reconsideration or therapeutical reconsideration would you think about? And let's say that we actually can diagnose 1-year-olds and 10-year-olds earlier. At the end, don't you think that the therapeutic process is going to be completely different? Because these patient populations will be completely different. So what is actually the practical, let's say, applicability going to be because of your research?
Okay, so if I understood your question correctly, as for the first question, we do have some patients in the articles that we are planning on involving. There are some patients in there who are 37 years old and are being diagnosed with congenital cholesteatoma. In these cases, it is absolutely hard. It is really hard to decide whether you're dealing with a secondary cholesteatoma or this primary congenital cholesteatomas, there's actually a criteria system published by Levinson et al. That helps you decide that, but obviously sometimes it can be ambiguous, but I don't know if I have the time to go into that. As for the second question, it is kind of different, although obviously newborns kind of have the same middle ears as a 37-year-old person, and the same surgery is performed on both people using the same devices. So it's not that different in that sense. Obviously, congenital cholesteatoma is a very rare disease. Parents don't really think about this. Sometimes it is very hard to tell whether someone has a cholesteatoma in their ear or not, because the tympanic cavity is not a box. It's not like the box that we learn about in anatomy. It is actually a very, very complicated cave with many little nooks and crannies where cholesteatoma can basically just reside in without you seeing it, even with a microscope. Usually they diagnose it by MRI with a special kind of MRI, and obviously we're not going to be able to put every single infant into an MRI to be able to tell whether they have congenital cholesteatoma or not.
Thank you very much, Bori, for your interesting presentation and also for the questions.